Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a skin tint comparison video. So ever since I've mentioned how much I am so in love with the Maybelline Superstay Skin Tint, I've gotten a ton of requests from you to compare it to the L'Oreal True Match Nude Skin Tint. First thing I really want to touch on in this video is price points. Price point is going to be dependent on where you purchase it. So for example, it's gonna fluctuate a little bit from retailer to retailer, but I've pulled up a couple prices online just so I can kind of show you what I'm talking about. So for example, just by looking up the L'Oreal True Match Nude Hyaluronic Acid Skin Tint, at Ulta, this retails for $19.99, whereas at Target, it's retailing for $14.99. And then with the Maybelline one, $17.99 at Ulta Beauty and $13.99 at Target. Just because the price point is lower at Target right now doesn't necessarily mean that it's always going to be lower at Target. A lot of times Ulta has promotions going on, especially with those big brands like L'Oreal, Maybelline, Revlon. But also don't count out your local drugstores, so your CVS, your Walgreens, your Duane Reade, because a lot of times, again, with these L'Oreal, Maybelline, Revlon, Physicians Formula, NYX, a lot of times they have promotions going on in store. So I don't think take the price point too seriously as I'm saying it, because a lot of times, especially with like Maybelline and L'Oreal, it's gonna fluctuate a lot. So if you like the product, it's always pretty much, I think, going to be under the $20 price point. As far as the shade range goes for both of these skin tints, with your L'Oreal True Match, there are 14 different shades, and then with Maybelline, there are 18 different shades. One leg up I want to give the Maybelline in terms of shade range, especially if you have a medium to deep skin tone, is that the Maybelline one, the pearl in my deeper shade versus my lighter shade, my deeper shade has more of a red, bronze, gold type of pearl, whereas my lighter shade has more of a true champagne. So I think that's a huge advantage in the Maybelline one, because for more medium skin tones, a lot of times those champagne undertones can actually look quite icy on the skin tone, kind of dull you out and not look quite as flattering. So I really think that's a huge advantage, because in my deeper shade from L'Oreal, it's the same as my lighter shade. It's just kind of that universal pearl glow, which is fine. It's still really beautiful, but even for myself personally, when my skin tone gets a little bit deeper throughout the summer and fall months, I notice that sometimes champagne pearl, it's just a little bit too silver on my skin and it's not complimentary at all. So I really enjoy that about the Maybelline one, and I think that if you do have a skin tone that's a little bit deeper, you might honestly find that a little bit more flattering to your skin tone, because it's just going to be a little bit more of like a healthy kiss of a natural looking luminous pearl versus like something that's super champagne that you can see on your medium to deep skin tone. Now with the L'Oreal True Match Skin Tint, I don't have an exact shade match. I've pretty much always mix the two of these to create a perfect shade match. So I use the shades 3-4, which is light medium, and then the shades 5-6, medium tan. Medium tan is a good fit for me throughout the months where my skin tone does get a little bit deeper, but oftentimes for the parts of the year where my skin tone's a little bit lighter, I need to mix this in with it as well. And then for my Maybelline shades, I have the shade 220 right now. This is my lighter shade. It's a perfect match, just this on its own. And then I also have 312, which is my deeper shade, so more when I have a little bit of tan to my skin. Of course, I could mix these together if need be, but I actually find I'm kind of one or the other, and 220 is a really good match for the tone that I'm at right now. Now I'm going to move into the actual side-by-side application portion of this video, where you can see both of the skin tints side by side on my face, and I'm also going to go over a little bit of application as well, so you can kind of really see how the product moves on my face. We are going to start with a little bit of prep, so I'm going to take the Milkshake Hyaluronic Acid Toner Mist. This is from Beekman 1802. I'm gonna spray this all over my skin, give you a nice moisturized layer, and then I'm gonna seal them with the Beekman Bloom Cream Daily Moisturizer, just so we have a nice base. But other than that, I'm gonna skip out on primers and stuff, just so you can really see how the skin tints go on top of just plain skincare. And for my SPF today, I'm gonna use the Summer Fridays. This is the Shade Drops SPF 30. This is a mineral sunscreen, and it's truly never failed me underneath makeup. This side will be Maybelline, and then this side will be L'Oreal. As I mentioned with L'Oreal, I don't have an exact shade match, so I mix 3-4, which is this lighter one right here, and then 5-6, which is the deeper one. Starting off with about this much product. We'll do finger application at first, and then I'll smooth it out with a brush, but just assuming you're getting a skin tint because you like the ease of application, you don't want to have to use a brush with it. And I'll build it up on areas where you can kind of see the coverage. Like you can see I've got that acne hyperpigmentation right there, and it totally just covers that up. And then I'm gonna take a big fluffy brush. This is a Lawless powder brush, and I'm just gonna use this to buff out the skin tint. So there's one light layer of the L'Oreal. I'm just gonna use the shade 220 from Maybelline right now because I feel like this matches me really well. I don't think I need to use my darker shade today. So same thing, just gonna apply it with my fingers. And honestly, upon application with the Maybelline one, it just feels a little bit more oily, not in a bad way, but like the formula itself is just noticeably more slick than the one from L'Oreal. So I do find that the blending of the Maybelline is a little bit easier with your fingertips. I'm wiping this brush off on a washcloth in between each application just so we don't mix the products together, but I'm gonna blend this back out with my fluffy brush. So this is the Maybelline side, one light layer, and then this is the L'Oreal side, one light layer. Side by side, I feel like you can really tell the Maybelline one is much more radiant, like it actually has a little bit more of a visible sheen to the product, whereas on the L'Oreal side, it's just a touch more on that satin side. However, they both do have those built-in illuminators in the formula, so they still both have that nice kind of soft pearly finish. So I'm gonna build them up one more layer so you can kind of see how the product builds. Going back in with my L'Oreal mixture, I'm gonna dot this on the areas where I want extra coverage, and I'm gonna show you how you can also kind of concentrate the product on your problem areas so that you're still able to get as much coverage as possible. And again, just really using my fingers to stipple this in. I'm just gonna blend a little bit on the jawline, but much like you would with a concealer, you almost wanna kind of let that skin tint set down just a touch, like dry to the skin before you start blending it out on the areas where you want to keep the coverage. So give the product a moment to really settle so that you're not just blending the wet product everywhere, but of course you can go around and blend anywhere you're not trying to keep the coverage, but I really want to build it up like right there to help hide that. And then once it's, you know, settled down, we can go back in with the brush and just softly blend it out. So now we have 2 layers of L'Oreal on this side, 1 layer of Maybelline on this side. I feel like the Maybelline one, even with just 1 layer, has almost as much coverage as the one from L'Oreal. So I'm gonna go in with even a little bit less of the Maybelline. I'm just gonna lightly dot this onto the skin, and I'm gonna stipple this and just kind of push it right in. And you can really see this Maybelline one, like right in this area, there's a ton of coverage right there. So here are the 2 products side by side, looking straight at me. I feel like, honestly, even looking at myself, it looks like I'm wearing the same product on my face. However, when certain spots on my face catch the light, you can see on the L'Oreal side, it's just a touch more of that satin effect. And I feel like it also has a little bit more of a blurring effect, especially on the center of my face where I have more visible pores. Whereas on the Maybelline side, you can really see that soft radiant bounce, and it just has a little bit more of that kind of like a sheen of a glow. So like I'm saying, they both have that pearl pigment to them, so they're gonna have that really nice radiant finish. However, with the Maybelline one, it's almost like you have just a little bit more of a consistent little bit of sheen over the skin, which I personally really like. But in terms of coverage and the way they, you know, build up, I think they're pretty similar. I think the Maybelline one right off the bat has just a touch more coverage than the L'Oreal does, but you can still build L'Oreal up to have more coverage. So, and I feel like when I smile, you can really tell right on the apples of my cheeks. See how this one's just not bouncing back quite as much light? The Maybelline side really has a little bit more of a glisten to it. It's subtle, but there's definitely a difference there. And that's one of the things I wanted to talk about with this application. The L'Oreal one and the Maybelline one both get a little bit more dewy the longer that you wear them. So your skin's natural oils are gonna make the product look more dewy throughout the day. I never have issues with it making me look greasy or anything, but I do like the extra kick of sheen that the Maybelline one has as compared to the L'Oreal one. But again, this one will still get a little bit more dewy as the hours go on. I'm also going to throw on a little bit of concealer so you guys can see how that looks. I'm using the Too Faced Born This Way Ethereal Light Concealer. I use the shade Pecan just to like brighten up and add a little bit more coverage. I put this in all my typical concealer spots. Sometimes I feel like seeing a foundation with concealer on is better because then you can just kind of see how the face would look when you put some concealer under your eyes, because I feel like that makes a huge difference. For me, when I'm trying out foundation to see if I like it, I want to see how it looks when I have my concealer on. Okay, and here are both sides with concealer. So we have the Maybelline side, nice and glowy, and then the L'Oreal side, nice and glowy, but I feel like now you can even tell more. This side's like, see, it's getting a little bit more radiant. The L'Oreal one is just a little bit more of a satin finish on that side. And now with my makeup done, I feel like, you know, with everything else done, you can really tell they look super similar on the skin. The biggest difference really is just that you're gonna be able to tell that the Maybelline side, like I said, is just slightly a little bit more dewy, especially in the center of my face. Right there. In comparison to the L'Oreal, but they both have that really gorgeous radiant bounce from that luminous pigment in the product itself. Now when it comes to longevity with these products, if they are worn on their own, so just assuming that you're just doing your typical skincare routine, finishing off with your SPF, I think the performance time is extremely similar. I don't think one is much longer lasting than the other. They both get a full day's wear in my opinion. Like they're really long lasting skin tints. However, if you do have an oilier skin type, I think the L'Oreal one will probably last a little bit longer on you just because right off the bat, the Maybelline one has a noticeable sheen to it. So it's just a little bit more oily looking on the skin. Not in a bad way, but you know what I'm saying. It just has like a little bit more of a glisten to it. I think that both of these are some of the best base coverage products available at the drugstore. You know, I know they're skin tints, but I actually like these better than a lot of tinted moisturizers and foundations in my drugstore makeup collection. So I would pick these over pretty much anything else aside from like maybe one or two things. So I don't think you can go wrong with either of these, because I would definitely place these in my top 3, or I guess there's 2 of these, so I'd definitely place these in my like top 5 drugstore base coverage products. But if you made me pick one over the other, I am going to go with the Maybelline one. There are more shades. I do think it's a unique added touch in terms of formula for the products that are deeper in tone to have more of that bronze pearl pigment to them versus just a universal champagne in all the shades. And I like the formula just a smidge better. So, I mean, that's just a personal preference thing because you can see them on my face right now. They don't look all that much different, but I like the way the Maybelline one applies a little bit more. Feels more like a serum, more like an oil, like a skincare product. I don't feel like it goes on feeling like makeup, whereas with the L'Oreal one, the product's just a little bit thicker. So to me, it feels like makeup. By no means is this heavy on your skin. It's very lightweight. You don't really feel like you have makeup on. But again, the Maybelline one is just a little bit more lightweight, a little bit more dewy and glowy. And because I have a dry skin type, I like that about the Maybelline one. But honestly, I really don't think you can go wrong with either. I think it's just gonna totally come down to personal preference. So with that being said, I think that's everything I wanna touch on in terms of the video. If there are any questions that you have about these skin tints, maybe I didn't touch on something, but I really wanted to just kind of briefly hit all these different points. And if there's something that you're curious about either of the skin tints, please be sure to leave it in the comments down below. I'll do my best to help you out based on my own experience with these products. I will list and link my shades specifically in these 2 products as well so that you can see that for reference. And that's the other thing I did want to say. I do like how in the Maybelline one, 220 is like a really good match for me right now, but so is 312 because I haven't like really felt the need to mix these yet, but I can, and I've tried it, but I feel like they're good on their own. Whereas with the L'Oreal one, like I said, I just have to kind of mix those two to create my own custom shade. I also do feel like with the L'Oreal one, it's like slightly a little bit pink, which I don't love. It still works, but I like the undertone of the Maybelline one better. So anyway, so yeah, if you have any questions, leave them down below. I'm also gonna have my Instagram, my TikTok, and if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Let me know some other videos that you're dying to see for the rest of the summer months, or any other drugstore products that are really on your radar right now that you'd like to see me talk about on my channel. But other than that, I will see you guys in my next video. Thank you so much for watching this one. Bye everyone!